Jacob F. In your honest opinion, is someone in modern America with a snub nose or 380 in their pocket seriously underarmed? Modern service pistols have so much to offer, but I find myself less and less interested in pistols I know I would never carry. Do you usually EDC the pistols that we see you train or compete with the most? That's two questions, which violates our principles. However, are you underarmed? Well, that's an interesting question because it's based on what your need is, right? First of all, a gun, if you're going to be a person that is going to concealed carry a pistol, having the pistol with you is probably more important than leaving it at home. If you leave it at home, doesn't matter how good you are with a gun, it's irrelevant.
True.
And so if you find that a modern service pistol, in quotes, is something that is too much for you to carry, then it's worthless because it's not with you. I mean, that's a pretty obvious statement, right?
Yep.
So you are therefore very underarmed when you leave a service pistol at home and don't bring anything. So then the snub nose and the 380 sounds pretty darn good, doesn't it?
Yep.
I am not a fan of pocket carry for tactical reasons, and I've said this many, many times. I think that is, you can argue against pocket carry very easily. However, if you find that a snub nose or 380 is the biggest thing that you're willing to carry reliably and carry it consistently, then I would say you are far better armed than someone with a service pistol that leaves it at home.
Unquestionably, I would argue that the number of times, the circumstances in which the difference between a 380 and a 1911 or a Roland Special Glock, the number of times when that's actually going to make a difference are incalculably small.
Compared to when you put it in context to the average, and I put that again in air quotes, but the average civilian self-defense shooting scenario.
Right.
A Roland Special versus a 380, the differential in what those, in those normal circumstances is quite minimal.
Yeah. So, no, I don't think you'd be underarmed with a revolver or a little 380.
Generally speaking, not. Now, you should be able to carry a Roland Special if you want.
Sure.
Not saying that, but the reality is that in most circumstances, you'll never need it,
Right.
hopefully, and avoid places where you would need it, hopefully. And if you do need it, these circumstances, statistically speaking, the snub nose or 380 is probably just fine.
Yeah.
But not in your pocket. Now, the last part of that is, do you usually EDC the pistols that we see you train and compete with the most? No.
No.
No, because the stuff we shoot and train with the most is stuff that isn't generally practical to carry. I can and do have a holster to carry my Roland Special, and have, and do, but I find it to be so freaking annoying after a while that I end up going back to my Walther,
The one that shoots bullets is black. It's got a magazine, polymer.
the hell is it, the PP,
PPQ?
yeah, whatever.
PPW? PPQ? I thought it was PPQ.
I can't even remember.
Honestly,
I don't even remember.
It's
I'll
like-
end up going to my 9mm Walther because it's so much easier to carry, and that's the reality of it. So if you're going to carry something you don't carry, doesn't matter. Now, I would say that you should practice at least a certain amount with the gun that you're going to carry.
Yes.
You have to know that it's reliable. You have to trust it. You have to know that you can make hits with it, and you have to have some level of modicum of skill with it.
Your skill and experience with a carry pistol is far more important than what that pistol is.
Fair.
If you gave me the option of here's a guy who's going to carry a double stack para-ord 1911, let's suppose he has one that works, but he's never shot it in his life, versus here's a guy who's has put 1,000 rounds through his Kel-Tec P32. I'm like, I think I'd go with the P32.
Possibly.
I'd rather be in a situation where I have a lot of practice and experience with the gun than one where I've just got a really big gun.
This is not to say that I don't practice with my Walther, but you don't see it on video,
Right.
because it's not exciting video and it's something I'll go do on my own.
Yeah.
So absolutely, you should practice with your carry pistol, and you should know that it's reliable and trust it. But that does not mean that for our purposes, especially when you're going to a competition environment, that I'm going to take my little pocket, which I don't carry in a pocket, but my sub-sized pistol.
Your single stack 8-round capacity.
I'm not going to take that to the two-gun match, not regularly, because it's not working into my favor, as well as we're always trying to demonstrate weird guns.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
All right.
Tim K. What guns do you have an irrational hatred for, and what guns do you have an irrational love for?
Cobra Terminators and Shoshas.
Okay, you have an irrational hatred for a Cobra Terminator? That's not irrational.
Okay,
That seems
true.
like a rational
That's
hatred.
true. It's a very well-founded hatred.
That's a rational hatred.
I don't know that I have an irrational hatred.
I hate the BAR.
Okay.
I still hate the BAR. This goes years back. We got a semi-auto BAR, and we did this match, which was the BAR versus the FG42. And the BAR is a heavy beast of a bitch of a gun, and it's like it's like the sights.
That was so unpleasant. It has permanently scarred your.
I'll hate it forever. The There are so many things wrong with the A2 variant of the BAR. The bipod, it weighs a ton and it spins around the barrel. The sights are garbage. Reloads are garbage. It weighs a friggin' zillion pounds. The trigger's not that good. There's like a lot wrong with that gun. Oddly, the original 1918 BAR was far better than what they did to it at the A2. So I would say my irrational hatred, although semi-rational, is the A2 variant of the BAR. I hate that freaking gun.
I can't think of a gun I have an irrational hatred for.
Okay. Do you have what do you have a irrational love for? Everything,
show-shots.
everything French. The show shot.
Yeah, a lot of the French stuff is legitimately just fine. The show-shots are, it's like really having a love affair with a stem gun. It's like, that ain't right. But there it is.
Irrational love for? I don't know that I have an irrational love for any gun.
Yes, you do. You're G41.
Oh, yeah. I have all matching G41, which is cool, and it uses this horrible, the bang gas system, and it's the reason I find it interesting is because it's a gun that was fielded in relatively large numbers using that gas system.
Despite being completely unsuccessful in the field.
Yeah, and it's really not that fun to shoot, and it's forward heavy, and yeah, but I like it because it's historically interesting. So you're right, the Gewehr 41. Tim B. I'm seeing that SOCOM is switching from 7.62 NATO to 6.5 Creedmoor in some of their precision rifles. Is this an indication that the entire U.S. military will go that direction?
Nope.
No way.
Next question.
This is specialist stuff.
Very specialist.
These are specialists. 6.5 Creedmoor is a great cartridge, but you're not going to see that get adopted across the board. Nope. Rhian H. Would modernized lever-action shotguns actually be better than pumps for home defense?
Nope.
No.
Boy, this is easy.
These are easy questions. I don't know how many lever-action shotguns you fired, but I fired ones out of the box. We're talking about the 1887 in
There's
particular.
basically one lever action shot.
The 1887.
Yeah.
And then I fired ones that have been completely, wonderfully, expensively, like, slicked up to the point where they're as smooth as they can possibly be. And lever-action shotguns suck. The end.
Yep.
So no, I would stick with a pump-action shotgun. Samuel H. In your M27 IAR video, you mentioned that the piston lends itself better to DI to volume of fire. Is the piston AR going to see a comeback due to this, but perhaps for the quote-unquote right reasons, rather than the initial excuse of quote-unquote more reliable?
Nope. Next question.
No, it won't. The reason the piston lends itself better to that for volume of fire is because of where the heat's distributed in the gun.
Yeah.
In a DI gun, the heat goes down the gas tube. The gas tube will, even in a radiated one improved by Jim Sullivan, will eventually give out. That's one failure point. It's almost like a fuse.
Yeah.
As well as the heat is distributed into the bolt carrier and bolt, which is not a great place for that to be in very large volume.
Yeah.
So the AR was designed with the idea that it would never fire more than the combat load in full auto.
Right.
And DI lends itself to that. If you need something that's going to be a squad automatic weapon, such as the M27 IAR may be pushed into, it does. This is one of the instances in which going to a piston makes sense because of that. It keeps the internals cooler.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yep.
But does that mean that we're going to see a comeback of piston ARs? I do not think so.
I think we are seeing a huge popularity of piston ARs, specifically the HK416.
Well, all these militaries are adopting them.
But I don't know that that's necessarily just because of the piston. I think they're adopting them because HK is selling them at a good price. They're a very reliable gun. It's a very well-respected manufacturer. And it's a really good gun.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Heavier than a DI.
That's true. And with quad rails and crap on it, it is heavy. But it's a really good solution. It is, while perhaps there are ways that it can be improved, I don't think it has any really serious flaws. And most of its competitors do. The SCAR, it's optics.
It kills optics.
And there aren't a whole lot of other options.
Well, the SCAR heavy kills optics.
Yeah.
I don't know about the light.
You
can go with the standard Colt M4 and all that stuff.
Sure. Okay, let's say you're France and you want to buy 300,000 rifles. Are you going to trust that to Colt today?
No.
No. You're not going to trust it to Remington.
No.
You're not going to trust
You don't
it
have
to
your own.
Winchester.
You don't have your own arms industry.
There is no Saint-Étienne anymore.
HK is a huge reputable company that has almost always turned out very quality products.
There's no RSAF Enfield. So you've got HK, you've got FN, and you got Beretta.
Ooh, it starts getting grim after that, doesn't it?
There's not a lot else out there.
The U.S. market's even not good. Not really.
Not for
military. Not for military.
A large volume.
Look at what the American military is doing. FN.
Yeah. You got FN, you've got HK.
HK.
And you've got Beretta.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, do you want an ARX 100?
No.
Do you want a SCAR? Okay, you get an HK 416.
Kind of where it's going.
It doesn't have to be the perfect rifle. It just has to be. You don't have to run faster than the bear. You just have to run faster than the next slowest guy.
Yeah, and it's interesting that this question actually is very interesting in terms of when you think about what's happened to the arms industry of the world.
Yeah.
When it comes to military grade arms, there's not a lot.
I think we've always had this sort of situation, but there are fewer now than there used to be.
Well, yeah, there was that's
So-
true. I mean, look at Mauser's dominance at one point.
Right. It used to be, okay, you want a bolt-action military rifle and it's 1905. You can talk to Mauser or DWM. You can talk to Steyr in Austria. You could talk to FN. You could talk to Remington, which is, everybody and their brother brought rolling blocks. You weren't really talking to Winchester. They didn't really come up with
They were more civilian
kind of
market.
sort of,
Yep.
But I'm pushing my head here. Who else was there? So there've never been a whole lot of really like national military level arms producing conglomerates.
We're at a particularly smaller number now than ever, though.
Yeah, you look at it, you're like, oh, they should have bought Desert Techs. That's awesome. Desert Tech can make one good gun. They can probably make 1,000 good guns, but they cannot make 100,000.
No,
good guns.
they would have to license to someone that could actually do it.
Right. HK, FN, or Beretta. Who has the industrial capacity to do it?
Yeah,
So,
that's the answer. Joseph R. With the knowledge of incoming lever action content, when will we see a 2G ACM that starts on horseback or simulated for the horse's safety? Probably never.
Yeah.
That's a bridge too far at the match. First of all, a real horse?
nope.
No, thank you. That's most people, even here in Arizona, don't know which end of a horse is which end of a horse.
Even mounted competition shooting
Yeah.
doesn't use real bullets.
No, they use blanks.
Yeah.
Black powder blanks. So that's not going to happen. However, there will be lever action 2G ACM content.
Yep. Speaking of our lever action series,
Mm-hmm.
the guys that we are talking about wouldn't have been shooting from horseback.
Very rarely. It did happen.
Yeah, but not most of the time.
we-
They're dragoons. They're going to get off the horse and shoot from the ground.
The horses were there to give them mobility on the battlefield, but they would
Yeah.
dismount and then shoot from a firing position. In fact, the horses were pulled to the side and held.
Yeah.
There was a guy designed,
Yeah, you don't want
designated.
horses to get shot, and you can't hit crap from the back of the
So the
horse.
horses were more for mobility than shooting off of horses. However, there was shooting from horses on rare occasion. More from the native side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thomas V. When will we see optic-mounted pistols more widely accepted? What do you see as the biggest hurdle in the commercial market? I think we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, right now.
I
it's
think the
happening.
market's starting to really explode with that. I mean, everybody's
There-
starting.
There's one right there.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's true. One just walked by. No, but I mean, the market. It was a couple of years ago. You're starting to wonder, like, what's going on with this? Because it really is. It's like putting a red dot on your rifle is a big deal. It changes everything. Putting a red dot on your pistol is a big deal. It changes everything. And so the fact that we haven't seen it get adopted faster is some kind of weird Luddite kind of thing, I think.
I don't think it's Luddite. I
No?
think it is natural inertia of security service bureaucracy. Because the only thing that's not here, I mean, competition shooters are widely doing it. There's a cost factor. If you don't have an extra $600,
Oh,
to
it's
drop
not
into the
cheap.
gun.
It's not cheap.
And then the other thing to look at is military and police. And those guys are always going to take a lot longer because they have a lot of liability. Do you want to be the one guy who authorizes red dot sights for 200 officers only to discover that, oops, that red dot sight actually doesn't work?
Fair
Or
enough.
whatever. But if you go to a gun shop today and look at the number of options you have for factory red dot pistols, Glock offers them, Hudson offers them, SIG offers them. FN. I think you
I'm
can
not
get
going to go.
FNs.
I'm not going down the list because I don't know.
There's a lot of them, and it's like every month someone else hops on board. Canik. You can
Yeah,
buy Canik
yeah, they
from
did.
out of the box with a red dot on it.
And now Aimpoint's coming out with an optic specifically for
Yeah.
it. They might change the game entirely.
Yeah.
To use that term.
Boy,
Because right now we're
Point's got cred.
Yeah, right now we're dealing with RMR and we're dealing with the loophole Delta Point Pro.
Yeah.
But the aim point and everything about what I've seen pictures of the aim point looks like the answer. It's a solid unit. It's
Yeah.
contained, small,
Yep.
rugged. Aim point
It's-
might change all of this.
And how many military contracts for red dots does Loophole have, or Trijicon,
Oh yeah.
or aim point.
And let's also remember the actual military application of pistols is minimal anyway. I
That's
think
true.
where this matters more is for the competitive market, the civilian market, and I would say law enforcement.
Yes, definitely.
Law enforcement having a red dot on a pistol makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
They've got them on rifles. Why not have them on pistols?
And they're the guys that and law enforcement is where pistols get applied a lot
That's true.
compared to any other long arm. So I think it's already happening, and I think that it's going to be there pretty soon.
Yep.
E.G. There seems to be a pervasive stereotype that assault rifles made from milled metal are sturdier and more accurate than guns made from stamped sheet metal. Have you seen any proof that this is actually true? For example, has anyone done scientific tests comparing milled receiver AK-47s with stamped receiver AKMs or comparing AR-15s with AR-18s?
Well, Battlefield Vegas did publish some data at one point
Oh, that's
about
good.
durability of their AKs, and their milled receiver AKs don't break. And they're at, I think they said it was about 250,000 rounds. The front trunnion will just shear off of a stamped AK. Right where the trunnion, where the receiver hits the trunnion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the trunnion's enclosed in the receiver, but right at that point where there is no longer support from the trunnion, that's where the receiver will shear.
Think about that number, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm not concerned about this.
Essentially irrelevant.
I don't think I will ever have the money to buy 250,000 rounds of AK ammo, much less put it all through one gun, much less then be concerned if it breaks. So I don't know about accuracy. I'm dubious
People say this a
that
lot.
there's going to be much accuracy difference, but durability, technically, yes.
Technically, yes. Practically irrelevant.
Yeah.
I would say that I don't think it matters that much.
I'd rather carry 2 pounds less of AK.
And any real world person, whether it's at a match or a soldier, would probably rather have the less weight than to worry about this gun's going to fail at 250,000 rounds. Yeah, we're never getting there. All right, Joel H. When I see photos of troops in Afghanistan, I often see lots of guys with suppressors on their ARs. Are these soldiers using actual subsonic ammo on those guns, or are they just outfitted with suppressors to reduce the sound footprint of the unit while still using standard ammo?
I don't know.
I don't know. I would imagine specialists and types that have that probably are doing either or both. However, even if you're not using specific subsonic ammo, the reality is the suppressor in a tactical environment still provides a huge advantage in that when you are firing at someone, they cannot determine the origin of the sound of the gunfire. They'll hear the crack of the bullet as it goes by, but the actual gunfire report itself, being able to triangulate that or figure out it's coming from that direction is far, far more difficult off a suppressed gun with even standard ammunition.
And both ways, it's also easier to communicate with your buddies.
Yes, it
when
is.
Both of your guns are suppressed.
So that's where you're getting the advantage there. You're getting a tactical advantage of determining, for the enemy determining where the fire is coming from. You're getting the other advantage of communication. So I would say it doesn't really matter that much, and that I'm going to guess that use of subsonic ammo is probably rare,
Yeah.
and for special needs. It's
Yeah.
probably standard stuff otherwise.
Yeah.
Max B. With your two-gun competition pistols, I suppose more so with your Glock 19 than the H9, were there any other pistols you considered? If not, why?
No.
No, and
Just-
the work's been done.
Yeah, I want a red dot on it.
Yep.
That's my main concern.
The Glock 19 roll-in special concept is been fielded and done and figured out. Now, there's arguments about RMRs versus Delta Point Pros, but yeah, the reality is there's a lot of ways to get a Glock 19 configured that way. You can get the Glock 19 trigger cleaned up. And the reason the H9 happened is because we were interested in the H9 because it was a truly unique design on the market. And then KE Arms chimed in to not modernize, I guess you could say modernize, to modernize it with a red dot. And then at that point, it became an obvious thing about why would I not do this?
Right.
In terms of would I go look at a SIG or a HK or no, because the Glock 19's been there, done that. There's nothing wrong with it. It absolutely achieves the goals. It is prolific and promiscuously available. So why would you bother otherwise?
That said, if you have some particular reason why you really prefer one or another brand, is there any reason to stomp that desire down and get a Glock instead? No, I don't think so.
No.
It's, you know what, it's just like black rifles. They're all mag pull adapters that shoot 5.56. All the modern pistols are basically 9mm adapters. They don't all use the same mags, but
They might as well start.
yeah.
Alex, what is with the not cleaning / lubing guns accession that seems to permeate with the firearms community? So the not cleaning.
I don't know.
Well, I can say on what we've done with in-range is there's been times where we purposely did this just to see when the gun would fail.
I slack at it because I'm lazy.
Right. I mean, but that's part of it. I think what you're seeing there is a knee-jerk reaction to the decades of you must clean the rifle like with a Q-tip every time you fire it, which is not true. And since that lore has become so consistently annoying, I think you've seen people go the other way, which is now I'm just going to abuse the gun. And there's like, it's fun to go to the range and brag about how you haven't cleaned your gun for 8 years or whatever. I don't think that that's wise either.
Yeah.
I think either one of those is probably the far extreme of the spectrum, which
Shocking.
is never a good place to be.
Shocking. Are you telling me the extremes are bad and the reality and the truth usually lies somewhere in the middle?
Somewhere in the middle.
Weird.
So I think that that's what it is. It's a knee-jerk reaction to years and decades of people saying you have to clean everything with a Q-tip and a white glove. John W., what do you have against the 5.7 cartridge? Absolutely nothing.
It's small and there aren't enough of them at any given time.
I
Hence, the P90 is just fine.
have nothing against the 5.7 cartridge. I think the 5.7 cartridge, for its designated purposes and goals, is a fine cartridge, especially in the P90 and fully automatic. I think the 5.7 cartridge, in its deprecated capabilities here in the United States, once they started banning certain types of ammunition or projectile types, started diminishing what it could do. But
It's also, there are only 2 guns that use it.
yeah. Well, no, there's 3 if you add that weird AR upper.
Yeah, but those are hard to find anymore.
Yeah, right.
It's a P90 and it's the FN57. So if you don't specifically want one of those, you're not really going to be using 5.7.
So I would say I have nothing against the 5.7 really. Ryan Z. Hi guys, up here in New Hampshire we enjoy constitutional carry. So do we do in Arizona. For all law-abiding citizens, what level of proficiency do you think one has to have with their concealed carry weapon of choice before carrying regularly? This is a sticky question.
Yeah.
Have to have is a problem because have to have implies legal requirements.
Yep.
So when I hear have to have, I'm going to have to answer this with, and I don't like the answer, but it's the right answer, none. Because if it's a legal requirement, it will be used as a wrench or a crowbar to prevent people having their rights. That's the problem with government requirements. Now, that said, have to have is, I would go to should have.
You have an ethical obligation to not be dangerous to other people with your firearm.
I agree with that entirely. But that's the problem again is have to have.
Well, by the way, you also have a legal requirement, a legal obligation to not hurt someone else with your firearm who
Yes.
doesn't justify getting hurt with it.
Fair, of course, absolutely.
And you know what? If you violate that, yeah, it does get used as a hammer against you and you deserve it.
Right. But the problem I have with this question is have to have.
Right. Well, the first issue is how do you even define it? Like, how do you define skill level with a firearm? I mean, it's kind of unquantifiable. Like, how do you define
Well, match scores, etc.
Okay, define for me what is an acceptable match score, or what is a match score?
Yeah,
how do you quantify stress level? How do you quantify the physical activity involved versus the accuracy requirements versus awkward positions where maybe the target's bigger, but it's actually a harder shot? It's unquantifiable. I don't think you can do it.
I don't know. What comes to mind is this: is have to have concerns me. Should have is a different word. Should have. What comes to mind to me is the ECQC course from ShipWorks.
That would be an excellent.
South
place
Narc's
to start.
ECQC class. That class absolutely takes the BS and just smushes it, and then you'll never have it again. Your ego is gone. This concept of this gun is a magic talisman against evil is gone. And all of those things that come out of that class would be a fantastic example of what should be what someone would pursue at least once before they carry a pistol, because they now have I think you will walk away from that course with a very realistic opinion of, do I really want to use this thing, and when should I use it? And that is a should have. Have to say none, because has to is a requirement.
Well, what legal requirements must we meet before speaking on the internet in public? None. And for the same reason. There are a lot of things that you should understand. However, here in the United States, we recognize that this is an inherent civil right. And again, if you start putting requirements, even if they are allegedly reasonable requirements, they will be used as a lever to take that right away from people.
It's a hard question to answer, because I know, like, morally there's one answer, but realistically there's another. Like, it would be nice to say, yes, you must have this level of proficiency, but then you know that that's going to be leveraged inappropriately and restrict people's rights. So since you know the system will act inappropriately, you therefore have to make a less comfortable statement of saying none.
Yeah.
Okay. Alvin York, I'm assuming that's not your real name, so I'm just going to say the whole thing. A while back, while you were discussing the SVD and the Soviet sniper doctrine, my question is, in your opinion, who had the better doctrine when it came to the role of snipers, the Soviets or the U.S. West?
Neither's better. They're just different.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, the Soviets really are a DMR for the most part. They have snipers too. Like they have Western style snipers that crawl through the dirt for 8 days and eat their own poop, and and then take the one precision shot, right? Yes, but the Soviet concept in general was the DMR, which is what the SVD was designed around. And I think the DMR has a great application on the battlefield. I just think that they're different things.
Yeah.
So I would
I
say
can't answer that beyond they're just different.
yeah. And the U.S. has adopted DMRs. They just didn't call them snipers.
Yeah.
So the U.S. kind of has both.
Yeah.
Andrew D. What is the single best thing you can do to improve your security online? Oh, this is easy. Do not
Don't go online.
No. Do not use the same password anywhere more than once. You should have a unique password for everything you log into. And to bolster that, use some sort of encrypted repository for your passwords, either a local one like KeePass or something like that, or, and I know this is controversial, but consider one of the online systems like LastPass or OnePass, and therefore have long, esoteric, cryptic, high entropy passwords that you yourself cannot remember, 24 characters of garbage, and then have them unique per login across everything you log into, even stuff you don't think is important. Do never, never, never share passwords between accounts. And that is probably the best thing you can do to improve your security online.
Or become a hermit and live in a cave.
Yeah, but the password thing is freaking huge. Sean O. What do you think that your what do you think that your what would stoner do carbine would be too light for military issue, or does stuff like that fiberglass lower make it durable enough for military issue?
I don't know. I'm a little dubious about giving it to recruits.
I agree. I would say specialists maybe because they know that they're dealing with the limitations of a specific weapon design.
They're not going to use it as a crowbar and
Right.
a ladder and yeah.
I mean, we've seen footage of like guys using AKs to try and dig up IEDs and they bend the barrels. I mean, okay, so when we did the What Would Stoner Do project, we were not saying, here it is, this is it, this should be issued to the military. What we were saying is, here is all the best components we could put together that is an example of what this could be. Maybe this could be a step towards that.
Yeah.
So would I say that you should take the What Would Stoner Do carbine in its current iteration and say, make that a standard issue rifle? No, I would not.
All right.
Duzr, D-U-Z-R. What are your feelings on multiple sighting systems on carbines and rifles?
Yeah.
I don't like stacked optics. We've talked about that before. I just don't like the amount of bore offset. This 45-degree cant thing becomes an ambi problem, and it's kind of weird.
And it's only applicable to competition.
Well, I wouldn't say only.
I think it's only applicable to
I wouldn't say only. So I would say go for it if you want to, but I don't see an advantage to it. I would avoid it.
I'd rather find one good solution than try and stack multiples together.
Here's a really good question. This one's probably the best one. Brian W., please answer this age-old question. Ginger or Marianne?
I don't know.
Gilligan's Island?
I haven't. Oh, yeah. I've never watched it.
You've never seen one episode,
I'm aware of Gilligan's Island, but I've never watched a single episode of Gilligan's Island.
so you don't know who those characters are.
I get the reference, but no, I don't know who they are.
Marianne. Jonathan B. Hi guys, I'm thinking I may go for it and get myself a What Would Stoner Do rifle. The thing is, I do not have the tools or skills necessary to do the complete build. How would you recommend I enlist for help? Is it going to a gunsmith the way to go, or how much do you think a fair price for that service would be?
I have an even better answer.
Jonathan,
You should sit back, relax, have a cold beverage, and wait, think about a month. And I have a premonition that you will be able to buy them fully formed, but I can't say more than that.
on the commercial market, meaning you wouldn't have to build it.
Right.
So wait a month. Stay
Hopefully
tuned.
a month? I think a month.
Wait and stay tuned. That's big news.
We're really excited.
If you
about
didn't catch that. Ferris, thank you for your content and excellent job you both do. A few months back, you guys mentioned that a lever gun would be a good option for people who live in states with restrictive firearms laws. My question is, why would you go for a lever gun versus something along the lines of a Ruger Mini 14 or a Celtic SU-16? Thanks again. Keep up the good work.
Well, specifically in a situation where you are not allowed to have a semi-auto or not allowed to have a detachable magazine.
Depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say you should go against a Mini 14, but a lever gun is definitely a great option for someone who's stuck or relegated to only manual actions.
Yeah.
Travis W. Karl, this question is mostly for you because of your dislike for the bullpups. How manageable was the recoil impulse in the feel of the Desert Tech MDR and 5.56, and how do you think it would perform in a two-gun setting? I can't answer how it would perform in a two-gun setting because I haven't shot one in a two-gun setting. There was a brief conversation with them to actually have one out that I was going to try to use, and it kind of fell.
A lot of that stuff. you know, SHOT Show, they run into like a bazillion people.
Well, there was an email one even,
Oh,
but
no.
it just kind of petered
Well,
out. I don't know what
A
happened.
lot of that happens too.
The 5.56 one wasn't ready to go, or was in beta, or something like that. But the one when we shot it at SHOT Show, I would say that it was really, really compelling.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it really did. So I would say that it was very manageable. It was, from my brief amount of firing shots with it, I would say it's a bullpup worth keeping your eye on.
Yeah.
How it would work in a two-gun setting?
We'd love to find out.
Unknown. Craig S. Is the Walther PPK still a reasonable choice for CCW?
Sure. There's better stuff out
Heavy.
there, but
Heavy for what it is.
yeah, but it'll work.
Yeah.
I know guys who carry PPKs.
Sure. I wouldn't choose it. I think there's better guns on the market now. I think it's a dated design, but why not?
I'd rather have that than like one of those Sky things that probably won't run.
Sky?
Yeah, SKKY.
Oh, I thought it was vodka.
That's SKYY.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure there's a lot of overlap.
Daniel T. When you two were kids, what was it you wanted to do when you became grown-ups? Has that plan changed, and why?
So, ironically, what I wanted to do as a kid was build airplanes.
Really?
Yeah, like from scratch, like cool airplanes.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, the closest thing I have, the two things that are closest to what I wanted to do as a kid would be Burt Rutan and the Vintage Aviator in New Zealand. Because those guys make perfect, fully functional flying reproductions of World War I airplanes.
That's freaking
Awesome.
cool, yeah.
And Burt Rutan designs friggin' commercial spaceships and is awesome and flies around the planet without ever landing. And oh my God, Burt Rutan is a fantastic aeronautical engineer. Those are the things I wanted to do. And that kind of stayed for about 2 years through college in majoring in aeronautical engineering before I realized that, get real, nobody actually does that. There's like those two people or that person and organization are the only people on the planet who actually do that. Everybody else who is an aeronautical engineer basically does a lot of calculus. Modern aircraft are not the sort of thing that you like scribble out on paper and then change your design and then you go out in the workshop and you build it. That's not realistic. Now what's funny to me is I ended up doing something that was perhaps even less realistic, which was I want to play with cool guns for a living.
Which then
Which
worked out.
appears to actually work. So
The things that come to mind when I was a kid that I wanted to do was either do archaeology. I like archaeology. I love it. Actually, you see that as some of the stuff on the channel. I like history.
Mexican wrestler.
No, I did not want to be a luchador. But archaeology or actually architecture.
Oh,
I
interesting.
like both. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the two that struck me, but of course, neither of those came to be the case. Sean S. Hi, Karl and Ian. What are your thoughts on the differences between the 7mm and 8mm Mauser round? I've heard good things about both cartridges, but I've only shot the 8mm. I think 7mm has a little bit less recoil, a little bit flatter shooting.
Yeah. I think given the two, I'd choose 7 most of the time.
For the flatter shooting.
But usually your choice isn't dictated. It's not the cartridge. It's dictated by something else. Mostly, what rifle do you have?
Yep. So the difference is, I think the 7mm is a little better, quite honestly, but it's not that big a deal. Jerry B. I've asked this before, but here's my submission again. Why do bullet designers and makers cater to gel tests when we're told gel isn't a true representation of tissue? Is there a better, more accurate test that we should look at when we're trying to select self-defense ammo? I feel like Paul Harrell's quote-unquote meat target tests more accurately depict how a bullet performs. Your thoughts on his results? Thank you. Well, I don't know his results,
Yeah, I have not watched any of that.
but I would say the reason and rationale behind that is that they want a substance that they can test in that is reliably consistent, that can be calibrated.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily represent exactly meat, but what it has to do is perform the same every time.
Right. Repeatable.
Repeatable. So they generally calibrate it, usually with a certain kind of cartridge or even a BB gun, I'd
It's a
say.
BB. Yeah.
Yep, and then they shoot a BB into it, and it should do exactly this amount of penetration, do this exact thing. And so when they calibrate the gel and the BB does exactly what it should every time, they know that this gel is the same as the gel they used last time, which is the same as the gel they used before that, which is the same as the gel they used before that, and therefore when they test new bullets, they can have consistency in their testing and mechanisms. You would not get that with meat.
Right. The problem is meat is a non-homogeneous substance.
Yeah.
And where you hit it is going to have a big impact on what happens to it. And the human body is far less homogeneous than just meat. There's a lot of different stuff inside there that's going to react differently to bullets, and you can't really test, you can't get a benchmark sort of test based on a non-homogeneous thing.
Right, so it's for repeatability, consistency, and really scientific method.
Yeah.
Gel can be calibrated, meat cannot. And that's as simple as that. Spot S. On a scale of 1 to yes, how crazy fun would it be to try and run a Desert Eagle at a competition?
No.
It would be a 0 or no. Desert Eagles aren't fun in any guise, and at a match it would be awful.
You know what else is not fun? Buying a 2-gun match worth of Desert Eagle magazines.
Or 50 AE.
Or 50 AE,
Yeah, you're right.
And if you did it and you used 357 Magnum, you would get nothing but complaints about how that is
Not 50
even the
AE.
thing. Right.
So, no thanks.
I did shoot a Wildy Survivor at a match.
That was painful.
That wasn't fun either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew H. Do you think any NFA items will ever be deregulated within the next 5 to 10 years? Or do you feel that given the current political climate that the NFA will pretty much remain law for the foreseeable future?
Given our current political climate, I would be very unsurprised by pretty much anything.
Yeah, it's
Like-
unpredictable.
I could see the country splitting into 3 separate countries, or machine guns getting deregulated, or I don't know, sausage getting banned.
Who knows?
I am not going to try and get into the
It
business.
it really
of
is a
predicting
giant.
politics.
It really is a giant bingo ball game right now. I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think anything's going to change. I think the NFA will stay the way it is.
That's certainly the most likely solution, most likely answer.
Yep. Jeremy R. Any recommendations on good training courses? I'm interested-
ECQC.
Yeah, I said that earlier. South Narc ShivWorks ECQC is the best one you can take in terms of actual applicable skill sets for concealed carry. Outside of that, let's go ahead and just recommend someone we have here locally, which is Independence Training.
Yeah.
They helped us with the matches up at Cowtown, specifically Desert Brutality, and they do a number of courses. They do field courses, they do hunting courses, they do tactical rifle, and they do excellent medical courses. So I would recommend looking at Independence Training up in Phoenix, and they pretty much have all those things covered. If you're looking for a concealed carry weapons course, I would absolutely look at South Narc ShivWorks ECQC. Scott S. Hey guys, asked before. The Garand seems great, but no love for the M1A. Why?
Because by the time we had that, there's just so much out there that's better.
Yeah, the M1A was an attempt to take the Garand and turn it into something else.
Yeah.
And the gas system isn't great.
The magazine's not great.
The magazine's not great. The magazine rock and lock's not great.
Yeah.
Keeping the gun accurate isn't great. Reliability's not great. Really, the Garand, M1 Garand, whatever you want to call it, was in its day a fantastic rifle and continues to be a really good rifle. But it's by the time the M1A came out, it wasn't enough of an improvement on the original design to merit the change.
Yeah.
That's why. James K. What stage props target presentations do you love to see and want to see more of? I know your answer is the spinner target.
Totally.
You're all into the spinner.
And your answer would be a rope net 12 feet tall.
That would be one of the other one. The other one that I really learned to like at Hard as Hell 2-gun were these pepper poppers that you knocked over and this clay pigeon will fly out and you had to hit it with a pistol.
I haven't seen that stage.
It almost seemed like luck. Now I'm sure it isn't, but it felt like luck. And so those, no thanks. But what would I want to see more of?
You didn't preload the gun with like 1 round of ball and then 1 round of snake shot and then 1 round of ball.
Right, no. What I would love to see more of are, and then these are never that reliable, and that's why we don't use them, but things that are like surprise or moving targets. Moving targets are great.
Yeah.
Moving targets, especially moving paper targets for score.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Matthew Y. What are your thoughts on a sighting system using altered reality tech, i.e. a projected HUD showing point of impact projected on a Google Glass type device? Do you know if such a thing is being worked on? Well, they had it in Aliens.
I'm sure there's some secret base right now, basically like out of X-Men.
Didn't the
where they're
Israelis field
doing
that with their shoot around the corner thingy?
It's not AR, that's just a video screen.
But they didn't have a glass?
Not as an AR thing. If they
Okay.
had a glass, it was a video screen. So you see the world with this eye and you see your screen with this. And other people have done it too.
AR being augmented reality.
Yeah. The US did it with Objective Combat Warrior, I think, or Future Combat Warrior. The French did it with Féline, where you had a little eyepiece like a 1980s sci-fi movie. And then, yeah, you've got a camera on your gun. You can hold it out around and look at it. Theoretically, maybe shoot, but it's not augmented reality. Actually, you know what is, sort of? The helmet system for Apache helicopters.
Yes, it is.
They have an eyepiece with a targeting thing, and it's hooked to the gun, and when they look somewhere, the gun moves with them.
And supposedly works really well.
Yes, and that's based on this helmet that's like this big.
Well, that's old tech.
Because it's in a helicopter.
It's also old tech.
Yeah. I'm sure it's coming. I bet it wouldn't surprise me to know that there are secret squirrel type guys who have that right now. And after that shows up, it will not be long before it's implanted.
I have
Seriously.
My thoughts are it's a great idea. My thoughts are the technology is here. My thoughts are that we will see it.
Yes, absolutely.
Derek M. Karl, after a stab at the improved AK, how far back is it from what would Stoner do? Do you think it could ever catch up in total performance? Nope.
Nope.
The AK, as good a rifle as it is, I don't know if the AR was designed with the idea of as being as modular as it was, or it just happened to be a happy accident. But the AR is a very modular system. The AK, with its current iteration, the way it's currently designed and built, is just not that modular. So there's only so much you can do, and so you're limited. Now, even if the market were to step up and support the AK the way it supported the AR, you could do more than I could have done with what I did with the AK. However, you'd never get to where the What Would Stoner Do rifle went.
I agree.
Seth N. Why are semi-auto shotguns absent from the defensive shotgun discussion generally? And is there a reason semi-auto was not represented in your shotgun comparison video?
Well, the shotgun comparison video was mainly just to make a point about the pistol grip only.
Yes.
Shockwave, it was garbage. And the semi-auto shotgun would have been obviously better in every way. All we really needed to compare it to were things that were relatively similar.
Yep. That's it. So why is it left out from the conversation so generally? Because it generally is.
I think they're expensive. They have a reputation for being unreliable as an entire class of firearms.
It's not fair anymore, really.
No, it's not fair, but it's still persistent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like why most people are just going to end up spending $200 on a pump shotgun instead of $800, or I'm really just not that much into shotguns.
I think the legacy of them, I think semi-auto shotguns at one point were unreliable, especially when there were varying types of ammunition being used. And that has caused a reputation to occur that still is just like now. The AR is unreliable, and semi-auto shotguns are unreliable, and therefore they're left out of the conversation. It may be time for that to be revisited, but that's the reason.
Yeah.
Callum B. What, in your opinion, is the superior method of magazine release and retention? Why? Do you prefer the AR style straight in or the AK rock and lock? That's easy for me. Straight in.
Okay.
Rock and lock is when it's in, you know what's in.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the benefits of that. Straight in is easier to insert. And the one thing you do with a straight in is just insert and tug to make sure it's in properly. If you have the proper practice and iterations of the in and tug to make sure it's seated properly, it's far superior. First of all, you can't have drop free. And if drop free only works when it doesn't. Drop free does sort of work. And I believe it's a faster, quicker reload.
Okay.
Rock and lock, like on the AK, if you fumble a rock and lock, you can get into a really bad situation where you have to like beat the mag out. So I personally think that the straight in is the preferred method.
I can really go either way.
Okay.
Straight in is stronger, a lot stronger when it comes to the actual magazines. And we've never really tried something like what happens if you trip and you go prone on the ground on your magazine. Because on an AR, that's going to drive that magazine straight up past the magazine catch.
So you're saying rock and lock is stronger? You misspoke.
Oh, sorry. Rock and lock is absolutely stronger.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The lugs on the mag are stronger. The connection in the gun is more positive.
Yeah, if you go straight down an AR mag, there's a good chance you're going to cause some problems.
And on an AK, the problem is the mag's not going anywhere, the gun's not going anywhere, and your face is going into the rear sight.
That's true.
So what I don't like are the rock and lock that are finicky and weird.
Like an M1A.
Like the M14. Right. And I agree, with an AK, yeah, it's possible to muck it up where you get the rear catch in, but not the front.
Which is ugly.
But there are a lot of systems out there that don't have that weakness. And even on the AK,
It's not that big a deal.
It's not that common to have happen.
I'd still go with the straight in because I think the benefits of speed and reliability are preferable.
Okay.
And I'm not worried about landing on the mag. All right. So I think that was over an hour and a half of aggregate questions.
Yes, split into two.
Split into two. So this is part 2 you're looking at right now for July. Guys, if you like this kind of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Our Patreon supporters are who provide all these questions, actually at one of the perk levels.
Yeah.
We have $1, which gets you into the monthly giveaways. $5 will get you into the Q&A. $10 will get you onto our Discord server. Those are the perks. There's other ones there as well. If you can't support us on Patreon, we totally understand. We get no ad funding from anyone. Patreon is what keeps In Range alive.
Yep.
So if you can't do that, we understand. Just please subscribe to the channels. We're on 5 different distribution networks. You can find them all on In Range TV. Share with your friends. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching.